Hello and welcome to Gettable, afl.com.au's home of trade, draft, free agency and contract news. We are here thanks to Google. It's great to have our friends at Google back on board in season 2025. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Twomey. Cal, we have got plenty on the agenda today. We're going to be speaking about the hottest side in footy, Collingwood. We're going to be taking a look at some of the upcoming names in this year's draft. That Don's dilemma we spoke about last week, that gets a whole lot deeper thanks to Sam Draper's injury on the weekend. But Cal, we do want to start with the Pies, and they are our cover story this week because they are probably the best team in footy at the moment.
They are absolutely on fire. Here's our cover story. Nick Dacos and the Pies rolling flag hunt. I'm going to get this one framed, I think. Also on the show today, why this demon is going to make AFL history. And bring your wallets. The big clubs on shopping sprees. Look at that cover story there with mighty Nick Dacos, which leads us to the vision.
Yes, it's
so
back.
We're going to look at what the Collingwood lineup looks like in 2028. This is what we project and what we look at from a club perspective, how they're selling themselves to other recruits and potential players to re-sign as well. So this is what we've got the Pies lineup looking like in 2028. We can zoom in here a little bit closer. This is our forward line at your end.
Yep.
Lockie Schultz. We've got Charlie West there, yet to debut. Also Bo McCreary. That face in the middle that you don't know yet, that's Zach McCarthy. So he's going really well. He's a chance to be a first-round pick at this year's draft.
As an NGA product.
As an NGA product. We've got Harvey Harrison. He'll be back later this year. Josh Dacos, of course. The midfield is an interesting one. Obviously, Nick Dacos is there. We've got Ned Long after his great form at the moment, and Paddy Lipinski, and Tom McGuan, the father-son, on the wing too. There's the defence too. We know Harry Perryman's in the side. Darcy Moore in the final year of his contract in 2028. Dan Houston, Tao Giath and Isaac Quaynor. So there are, as you'll see, some missing pieces.
And that's what they'll be trying to fill in the next couple of years, because there are some missing men on that board as well as we have a look. So these are the guys we've got question marks on the moment. Braden Maynard, out of contract, free agent at the end of the year. We know the interest is there from North Melbourne. That's still way up in the air. Bobby Hill and Darcy Cameron out of contract in 2026. Currently in talks to potentially extend them, but there's a bit of uncertainty around their future at the moment. Jack Crisp is going to be 35 by the time 2028 rolls around. One of the most durable players in the competition, but will he still be going? And then Jordan De Goey and Dan McStay, they come out of contract at the end of 2027. It's a question mark over whether or not they get new deals as well.
The Maynard one is fascinating on a lot of respects, isn't it? I think in the next couple of weeks we'll see the club and his management come together and see where the next steps are, because he wanted to get through that first 6 or 7 rounds before getting to closer to decision time for him. Bobby Hill and Darcy Cameron, for me, are just a really big watch in terms of their futures at the club. They have, as you say, they're contracted for next year, but they have clubs coming for them. Collingwood's put a longer-term deal to Bobby Hill that's been back and forward, but really no movement. And Dan McStay, just a little bit on him. Like, he signed a 5-year deal worth $600,000 in 2022. Yeah. Everyone thought, how much money is that? No one would even blink an eyelid at that money for a free agent, and he has absolutely filled the role that he can come in and do. So that's the guys that we have a little bit of question mark on what their future is, and what Collingwood also would be looking at 3 years down the track and saying, how do we replace these guys? It's not only Steele, it's not only Pendles. What about these guys who may or may not be there? Well,
they have been aggressive in the market, particularly since Craig McRae took over 3 seasons ago. So these are the guys they've brought in. 8 players they've brought in over the last 3 years via trade or free agency, compared to only 3 top 30 picks in that time. So they've really focused their attention on this. They've, of course, given up first-round picks for Dan Houston and Lockie Schultz there. As you mentioned, a couple of free agents as well, Dan McStay, and then the big one as well with Harry Perryman last year on that big contract over from Greater Western Sydney.
They've kicked the pick down the road, haven't they? Down in the Houston and also the Schultz case, and moved their future first. They've been after Pay FC, and I think that's a bit of a model that they're clearly taking. Look, they've also done an interesting bit, which I liked in his work so far, the 30-year-old filler, so the Tom Mitchell and Tim Membry positions. And I think from a philosophy point of view over the last few years, we've seen the Pies think that, well, there's 23 games in each position that need to be filled. Who are the guys that can come in and fill that at bargain rates? And Mitchell cost a little bit more, but Tim Membry didn't. And these are some types that I think we'll continue to see them roll through, those experienced players who can fill the role when required. We know Craig McRae likes the players who can play right here, right now.
So what about the potential Pies? Who have they got their eyes on, Kel?
Well, this is the trick about being Collingwood. They're going to be into everyone, and they are always going to have a chance to get these players because of the stature of the footy club and because the nature of their contending. So we know they met with Matt Rowell last year. The vibe on him still is that he most likely stays at Gold Coast, but they're in it. And they've been interested as a footy club in Matt Rowell for 6 years. Remember, going back to 2019, they offered up Adam Treloar to Gold Coast for pick 1. They wanted to get Matt Rowell then, and they've kept an eye on him ever since. Zach Butters, they don't have the trade collateral this year to make that happen, but if he's a free agent and gets through to free agency next year, then I think they'd absolutely be in that mix. Imagine Butters and Nick together. Christian Petrarca, well, Collingwood was one of the clubs that he had interest in going to last year.
Yep.
They didn't have enough chips on the table to get that one done at the time. Does it come this year at a different rate? Oscar Allen, they do have a level of interest in as a free agent. They need to fill that role. I think they're going to go super hard for Ben King next year. I think they'll be all over Ben King next year, and it'll be one of the great free agency watches next year. He's done 2-2-2-2 to get through to year 8, so that's a watch. And then, of course, Harley Reid. I mean, why wouldn't they be in the Harley Reid conversation? If it's this year, they've got nothing to play with. If it's next year, they've got more potential to use some stocks and move around. The other one, Bailey Humphrey, they had a crack at last year through the trade period. He's contracted for a long, long time, so I don't see that happening.
They start at pick 36 in the draft this year, which is going to be an impediment for them. What about the sell? How are they selling to players at the moment?
This guy. Join the Dacos dynasty. I mean, what a golden ticket they have in Nick Dacos to be absolutely build around. And I look at this one and I think, well, if you're Collingwood, you've got Nick Dacos at least for another 10 years. The Dacos decade, you should be trying to win the premiership every year for the next 10 years. And I think they're undertaking that model. While you've got this guy who's clearly the best player in the competition right now, and he's not going to be showing any signs of slowing down over the next little bit.
It's not like he's 30.
No, exactly. He's 22, and he's absolutely determined to win multiple premierships. He's got one. He wants a lot. So he's the best player in it right now. They've pushed to recruit around him as well. So the Dan Houston acquisition at halfback means that he doesn't have to play halfback. They've recruited Harry Perryman to do some of his defensive work, so he doesn't have to do it. He's really good at what he's great at. So they've really worked around that, and having him there is a huge part of their sell. Consistent success.
Yeah, well, they've made the prelim in 11 of the last 23 years, prelim or later, and they've won the flag twice in that time as well. So they're one of these sides that has consistent success over a long period of time. Powerhouse destination status, 110,000 members, average home crowd of 65,000 last year as well. And as you've mentioned, they've got a couple of father-sons and NGAs coming through the system this year who we spoke about in the vision before that are come through to this football club and really help them, as they've had with the likes of Nick and Josh Dacos.
Yep, Quaynor and also Darcy Moore, of course, as well. MCG blockbusters, but the inner city location is appealing to players. Players don't want to have to move too far. They want to live in the city. Their spot in inner city Melbourne, across the road from the G, you go to the club, you walk over to the G for the big games, and the family connection's a big one too. Yeah,
it is a big pitch for them, and you only have to go to their rooms after the game to see it. They've always got more people in their rooms after a win than any other club in the competition. That's because whether or not it's game days, whether or not it's training during the week, they sell the fact that they're a family club to players who are coming to Collingwood and say, you can bring your families into this environment whenever you want. That's particularly appealing to interstate players as well.
The other bit on the sell for them is they don't try and be anything that they're not. I'm not sure their model would work for interstate clubs and non-Victorian clubs because they don't have the same market appeal. But as you say, the biggest club in it, Harry Perryman chose them because he was a Collingwood supporter. And there's a lot of Collingwood supporters, as you spoke about. This time last year, though, and we talk about their targets in April, Dan Houston and Harry Perryman weren't really on the card. So they aren't a club that does the Cobra Kai approach, the strike first, strike hard. They're more zen about it. We're Collingwood. You know what we do. We deliver. We've got the best player in the game at the moment. I just want to go back to Nick very quickly. I think they're building an NBA model, and that's the game's becoming more and more like that as well, where you build the roster around the star. They're building the team around the player. And Dangerfield at Geelong, they've done that there. Sydney at when they had Buddy Franklin as well. So this is what
Dustin
the lineup...
Martin a little bit with Richmond.
Absolutely. So they have to work through the draft multiverse to work out how they get the points for McCarthy and McGuan and Jar Saxoner. So that's an issue for them. But they've also got extra picks next year to play with.
The one thing I'd ask around this is clearly there's 3 gaps in this team that need to be filled as already. And
plus the bench.
Plus a bench, which we've spoken about. But there's also a lot of... You need to project that a lot of players are going to meet their potential in this side. So you've got the McCarthys and the McGuans and even the Tao Giarts and the Harvey Harrisons and the Charlie Wests, who we haven't seen a lot of. Is that a slight concern to you, that there are a lot of holes to fill and a lot of players that must meet their potential for them to be a premiership contender in 2028?
More to the point, the concern for me is that it's still Sidebottom and Scott Pendlebury and Jeremy Howe and these guys who are so important to the flag push now. So they're hard to replace.
All right, so, and not in this, by the way, we've got Harry DiMattia, Will Parker, Jacob Ryan, Charlie Dean and Ed Allen, who are on their books as well, that are options for them to come into this side if they hit their markers as well.
That's the vision.
That is the vision. Bang. There we go.
Let's go back to the desk.
We love it there, Cal. All right, we've got plenty more still on the radar here today, Cal. Spoken about the Pies. we do want to speak about the Bombers as well, because they are one of the big stories in footy at the moment. And we spoke about them last week with Sam Draper and Nick Bryan and those, and how they do their ruck dilemma. Well, their dilemma got bigger on the weekend, didn't it?
It did, but we've got a first segment that we're going to bring this in on, because I just want to get comfortable in this seat. This is our new segment. It's called The Inside Word.
Oh, bang. There we have it.
Listen into the whispering. What's the inside word?
It's not Nick Dacos. It's Whisper Nick.
Whisper Nick Dacos. We'll whisper that. No, the Draper drama is one that's real, and this is all the big talking points coming through in the inside word. The Draper drama, this couldn't have come at a worse time for Sam Draper. Form of his life. Now it gets really complicated. How many years is Essendon willing to offer him? How does the injury affect Adelaide's interest in a long-term offer as well?
How many years do they offer him now? Because, I mean, we've seen for agents, they normally get, 5, 6, 7 years. What do the Bombers do now coming back off an Achilles injury?
I don't think it could be more than 4. I mean, he's had 2 injury issues across the last couple of years already. By the end of this season, he would have played 30 games in 3 years. So I think 4 would be around the mark. But then that opens the door to someone going longer and showing faith in him. So it does absolutely, to me, still look like stay at Essendon or leave to Adelaide. I don't think there's any other in between options.
Does it bring about the need for a mid-season trade period, which we speak about every time at this stage of the year?
Not for me. I don't think so. I think that if Essendon got a mid-season recruit from another club, they'd give them multi-years. They've already got 4 ruckmen on their list. Yeah. This is why they've got Todd Goldstein another year as well. They might pick up one in the mid-season draft. Braden Crosley, Cooper Keogh's another VFL option they've got interest in. So there are options for them. But I do think if it did have a mid-season trade period, the watch would be on Henry Smith at the Brisbane Lions. He's got a year to go in his contract there, and absolutely is considered a part of their future. But I know clubs are keeping a very close eye on him. He's a bit of a sneaky ruck merry-go-round watch, so has played only 4 games, but at VFL level is definitely getting one to the pro scouts are keeping a track of.
April 23, by the way, for those taking mark of when the first ruck merry-go-round reference of the year was going to be. It was there. Just quickly though on the Bombers, what happens if the worst happens and Todd Goldstein gets hurt, gets sore in the next couple of weeks? Because Vigo Vicentini's a teenager, Cale Durine's a teenager. Peter Wright was an okay chop-out option on the weekend, but...
It'd have to be Peter Wright.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What about the first round picks that are on the radar for clubs? Because there's been a couple of them that aren't getting games or are getting very few game times.
Well, I just want to know, will clubs look at these type of guys? So Josh Ward's out of contract. He's a little bit different. He's played most games this year apart from the opening round for the Hawks and starting to find his way. Jai Clark, though, has been in and out of the Cats side, having been a top 10 pick. He was, of course, pick 8. Josh Ward was pick 7. Luke Pedler, pick 11. He's played 30 games since that 2020 draft. Has had some injuries throughout that period, of course. But add another couple of names to that mix as well, and there's Neil Erasmus and Angus Sheldrick. There's 5 first-round picks and midfielders that clubs are keeping track of.
What about Ed Allen, who we didn't have on the board there for the Vision?
Yeah, he's not one of these inside ball winners, though, is he? Like those guys. And that's sometimes the issue with trying to find positions for them, because it's hard to battle in ahead of these guys. Elijah Sardis is another one.
Geez, I tell you what, you got a lot of feedback on your fixing the draft idea last week.
Well, you put yourself out there. And look, I want to go a little bit further onto this, because the feedback came in many forms from clubs, from recruiters, from people who've got an interest in this. And here's a few more suggestions that I got. So remember, my one last week was to add 4 more picks to the first round. The bottom 4 clubs get 4 more picks. Here's a few others. So the extension of that is that non-finalists get 2 first-round picks. So it goes the non-finalists in normal order, then the non-finalists again, and then the rest of the draft. So basically the Premier would start at pick 28. Ooh. But to me, that you were worried about the tanking issue last year, about last week about how do you put your name up there and potentially open the door to tanking? Well, no one tanks to miss the finals or go to 9th.
No, they don't. But I just think that clubs who don't make finals starting at pick 21, clubs that do make finals, if you finish 8th, you can still have issues on your list, and then you start the draft at pick 21.
You can, but that's it. Also will flush out the clubs who do often make the finals, like your Collingwood and Geelongs and these types, because you can't keep rebuilding at 25, 26. Clubs can only match bids using 2 picks, so the stacking of picks, you have to navigate your way through the draft so you've got enough points in those first 2 picks to match a bid. Can only have as many picks as available list spots. I think this is the no-brainer of the lot. Yeah. I mean, it's a loophole at the moment. That one should be shut. Top 30 access limited to 1 player per club. So if you've got multiple, you have to pick your poison, pick your best one, and work your way back from there. Remove luck out of the NGA system and lose those loopholes. I think that's a pretty consistent theme. For the NGA qualification, both parents need to be born outside of Australia for multicultural eligibility, and also tiered NGA access based on development of players. So if you've had a player since they were 12 or 13 through the academy, then you get first round access. If you hadn't since they're 15 or 16, you get second or third. So these are all part of it. I'm interested to see which way the AFL takes it, because I think it's pretty clear to all now that there's something that needs to be done.
I think it's the NGA and the matching of the bids, which I like there, whether or not it's the top 30 access limited to one club per player, whether or not it's, as we suggested last year, whether or not it's you must have a pick inside the round where the bid comes to match a bid on that player. So you can't match a bid at pick 4 with picks in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s.
The simple bit would be to take away all academies and just help out the Giants and Suns to get their investment back, because they don't have the same father-sons. So everyone's just on the same father-son level, but that's not happening. The AFL's not taking away academies, northern academies, and they've doubled down on NGAs last year, so that's not going to happen either.
What about some of the biggest contracts in the competition? Where are they sitting at the moment, Kel?
Well, here's more of the inside word. Brandon Starcevich, free agent that we haven't spoken about much on the show recently, as he's been dealing with this concussion setback. He's taking some important steps in his recovery from that concussion. That's seen a pause on the contract talks, of course, in recent weeks, but expect things to get restarted soon. In the next 4 to 5 weeks, around that mid-season part of the year. Brisbane's commitment and offers have been there since the end of last year, 2, 4, 6 years, which they offered, of course, that longer-term deal to Cam Rayner, the same free agent in the same year. So they want to keep him. Still no movement, though, to get that one done, but I think that'll come very soon. Matty Rao, we spoke about the expectation still being amongst the Victorian clubs and the feel being that he stays at the Suns, but still you wonder if that loss over the weekend sets things back an extra week or gives more time to think, but I still believe that that's the most likely outcome. And I'm remaining strong in my view that the Chad remains a Swan.
Ooh, 2 more years?
Yeah.
All right, there were some trial games late last week, and Flying Floyd was a man that put his name on the mid-season radar.
Yes, he did. The mid-season rookie draft is coming up quickly, and this is a guy I want you all to keep across. It's Floyd Burmeister, the Burmeister.
The Burmeister.
So a name you have to know, because he's 200 centimetres, he's a key forward. He was unlucky last year not to be drafted. He was one of the best players who just missed out, but he's gotten better since then. He's come back as an 18-year-old. He'll turn 19 in a couple of weeks. He played in this game. I went and watched it on Good Friday for Vic Country and in the trial matches, and he showed his talent, 14 touches, kicked 3 goals. Loves to swing onto that left side. He's a number 1 contender for the mid-season draft, absolutely. And if I'm the club with the number 1 pick, and you've raised obviously Tom McCarthy, the number 1 pick at the moment is going to be West Coast, probably. So I just look at it and think, do you want to go as 25, or do you want to go for the guy who's potentially 18? He's 18, 19. And potentially could be a really good player longer term.
I think that's a consideration. So the mid-season draft order at the moment is West Coast would have pick 1 through a draft vacancy left over from last November. Carlton would have pick 2 through Brodie Kemp. Essendon pick 3 through Tom Edwards. The Western Bulldogs pick 4 through a draft vacancy as well. Gold Coast at pick 5 through Charlie Ballard. Collingwood pick 6 through Reef McGuinness. Essendon pick 7 through Nick Bryant. And then Essendon again at pick 8 through Sam Draper. Carlton, Port Adelaide and Brisbane could also open up more list spots pending injury updates on Nick Newman, Todd Marshall and Lincoln McCarthy respectively there.
Yeah.
Floyd wasn't the only one to put his name forward in that Vic Metro, Vic Country trial game though, because Sam Grill, a man we've mentioned on the show before, he's got some speed, he's got some flair, doesn't he?
Grill is on the menu. This is the guy who's the big mover of the draft. Keep an eye on the name, Sam Grill. Had 27 disposals, 6 tackles and 8 inside 50s for Vic Metro in this game. I thought he was the best player on the day across the 2 matches. Look at the speed. He's got that to burn and he loves using it too. So he arches the back and runs with the footy. I thought that was the standout quality and moment of the game. Some of his running with the ball. Look at the cut through, the movement here, the sidestep, the agility and his delivery here. So Sam Grill has had a really good start to the season as well for the Oakley Chargers. Averaged 21 disposals there and also 5 tackles at that level. So one of the inside midfielders and players with the burst who's shot up into absolutely top 10 contention. So maybe a little bit of Max Holmes about some of the things he's doing. I'd love to be able to think back to 2020 and recognise what he's doing now compared to what Max Holmes was doing then. The problem is Max Holmes didn't play in 2020 because of everyone in COVID being locked down in Victoria. So I think there's some similarities there, though, what their same development at the same stage would be.
Starting to fire up, isn't he, the Grill?
He certainly is.
All right, what about the Bombers? They've got a bonus on the way, don't they? Well, they've had a few over the last couple of years, and they're going to get 2 more this year, and then they've got another one coming in 2027.
All right, Essendon fans, 2027, the Bombers' pick is in.
Oh,
there it is. Andrew Dillon would take to the stage and he'll say, the pick is in. Essendon has selected Kobe Buick. This is looming as a very big bonus for the Bombers. So he starred in the under-16s carnival. Number 6 here you'll see for Vic Metro in the Vic Metro trial game last week. He just knows his way around the ground and around the footy field. He's a natural. He's been on the radar of the Bombers for some time. He, of course, is the son of Darren Buick. We'll get to a couple of his highlights in a second. But Kobe had 29 touches, 8 marks, 5 clearances, 5 inside 50s and a goal. Here's his dad, Boris. What a goal sneak he was. 2-time premiership player, number 8 for the Essendon Footy Club. 1993, 2000 premiership player. But Kobe Buick is eligible for the Bombers in 2027's draft. And I think what we're seeing so far is that he's a really exciting talent. Now, the best thing for Essendon, if Tasmania comes into the draft in 2027, is that their access to one of the best players at this point is looking untouched. So they can still get a good player in a draft that's going to be the most compromised ever. After this one's already the most compromised ever. But yeah, giddy up Essendon fans because he's looking like a pretty good player.
Yeah, it's a massive wrinkle to that conversation that he's locked in anyway in 2027. All things going well. Isaac Kako last year, Hussein Alashkar, Adam Swade this year. And then, as you mentioned, Kobe Buick in 2027.
Yeah, a bit of a scare for Adam Swade as well on the weekend with his knee, but I'm told all good.
Okay. Cozzy time. Geez, wasn't he good against Fremantle on the weekend? 24 disposals, 5 goals against the Dockers, a side that's been so keen on him for so long.
Yeah, the timing was perfect, wasn't it? He's already on a lucrative deal with 2 years remaining, but I just want to put this on the radar because this is a guy who can do just about everything on the footy field. Cozzy Pickett's next deal, be it at Melbourne or Fremantle or wherever he wants to go next, will be the biggest in history for a small forward. So he will get a long-term deal worth more than $1 million a season wherever he plays his footy. He's a free agent at the end of 2027. He'll get a 5-year plus deal if it's to stay or to go. And for the first time in history, it'll probably be a $5 million plus deal for a small forward. So he has history in his sights and he deserves it because what we saw on the weekend shows how quality this guy is when he's up and going. He'll earn that money.
It was a big weekend of footy. One of the best games I watched was on Easter Monday between Geelong and Hawthorn, and these two clubs, they're going big game hunting, aren't they?
They absolutely are. Big game hunting on the fixture because that was a great game and a record crowd for Easter Monday, and big game hunting on the trade market. So the trade market sources that I speak to suggest these two clubs are absolutely in the A-grade search. So we're not talking about C and Bs, they are in the SAP part of their building. So the strong acquisition phase. And they are active, they are proactive, they are getting busy. I think they're taking their modelling, the Geelong modelling and what we saw from the Collingwood model earlier today, to another level. So let's just have a look at some of the players that I think both clubs are looking at. So Matt Rowell, of course, for the Cats, they met with him. I think Clayton Oliver will again be on the radar. Christian Petrarca, I think if he wanted to go coastal, would be someone you'd have to look at. Zach Butters, of course, we've spoken about Geelong and the Western Bulldogs being geographically two of the big contenders for him. Then there's Harley Reid as well. And then there's the Hawks. Oscar Allen, we know the interest there has been, and they met him, of course, a few weeks ago. Harley Reid, of course, too, is certainly on their radar. Zach Butters will be another one. I'm sure other midfielders too. I think the Hawks now would be... Not open's probably the wrong word, but I think you'd have to consider what they do with James Worpel if it's going to allow you some extra cap room to go and grab an A-grade player.
Well, the biggest A-grader on that list was Harley. Who do you got as favourites for him at the moment?
I think the favourite for Harley would be Geelong if he left.
Wow.
Yeah, so look, I think there's every chance you see Geelong and Hawthorn at Chadstone, they're doing that much shopping.
All right, let's get to one of our other favourite segments. It's closing time. Bringing it back. There is closing time. I'll kick us off, Cal. I love an underrated uncontracted player, and I love an uncontracted player who's set for a big pay rise.
Yeah.
Seth Campbell at Richmond, he has had such a fantastic start to the season. So he's gone 2-2-3-2-0-2 for goals this year. Top 20 for goals. There's only a handful of players, handful of small forwards that have kicked more than him this year. He was a rookie pick. Contract talks with the Tigers expected to pick up in the coming weeks. He's put himself right in the frame to be one of these leaders that's going to take the club into the next phase of its development. Rookie pick, Richmond need a hit on all of these guys, and they hit on rookie picks, which led to them winning the 2017 and the 2019 and the 2020 flags. they might have hidden another one here because Seth Campbell's been fantastic. He was their highest rated player in their win over Gold Coast on the weekend, but he'll be staying at the Tigers, you have to think.
All right, closing time for me. I just forgot to say as well on the Cats, Tom Atkins has a 2-year offer for him to stay. We spoke about the interest in him last week that's out there. He's playing some great footy at the moment. Two-year offer for him to stay through to the end of 2027, so I expect him to stay at the footy club. But my closing time as well. We've had a lot of questions about Port Adelaide's access to Dougie Cochran since our little video of him went viral a couple of weeks ago. A lot of interest in Dougie's quality as a prospect in the 2026 draft, potential number 1 pick there. So his father, Stuart, has been exploring his Indigenous background, which would make Cochran, of course, NGA eligible for Port Adelaide next year. So in a big development, the AFL has invited Dougie Cochran to be a part of the National Indigenous Academy. So that steers Indigenous kids through their 17th and 18th year, similar to what the Marsh AFL Academy does too with the broader group. So he'll be a part of the Marsh AFL Academy as well and a part of this National Indigenous Academy. So that, in the fact that has been included in that, I think signs are pointing in a promising development for Port Adelaide's potential access to Dougie Cochran as an NGA player as well. And that Stuart Cochran's Indigenous background too has been ascertained. So obviously a significant step in the potential access to him as an NGA player.
Do you see him being the number 1 pick?
Well, I'm not backing away from it now.
All right, love your work, Cal. It's been a great episode of Gettable. Plenty more still to come on afl.com.au. Keep checking back for inside trading. That'll come out later on Wednesday. A big thanks to our sponsors at Google. It's great to have them on board, and we'll be back same time, same place next week.